In the early 1990s, fewer than 30 Florida panthers remained in the deep, remote southern swamps. By this point, the species' own DNA had become a primary killer, more lethal to the remaining panthers than any human hunter. When veterinarian Melody Roelke examined the population, she found bizarre physical markers. In 90% of individuals, the tail was bent at a right angle. On their backs, 94% of the cats had a cowlick, a whorl of fur growing against the coat. The internal damage was even more severe. Females were born with holes in their heart chambers, sperm quality was abysmal, and 80% of males were born with undescended testicles. With only 6 females producing offspring that often turned out to be sterile, the Florida panther had become a walking ghost, locked into a cycle of decline that made extinction appear inevitable. This chart compares genetic diversity across large mammal populations. When geneticist Stephen O'Brien tested the panthers, their results reached the absolute bottom. Based on this data, biologists calculated a 95% probability of extinction within 20 years. To fix the bloodline, scientists proposed importing female cougars from Texas. Historically, these two populations interbred naturally across the Gulf states, but human development in the 19th century had severed that connection. This radical proposal triggered a 3-year debate. Critics feared that introducing outside genes would save the animals while permanently erasing the Florida panther as a distinct subspecies. Because captive breeding programs were simply reproducing the same defects in cages, biologists were forced to choose between subspecies purity and the survival of a healthy hybrid population. In January 1995, the mission relied on Roy McBride, a man who had previously spent decades hunting western lions for government bounties and private ranchers. He navigated the Texas mountains using a blinded mule. A mule that can see a lioness will often refuse to move, but a blindfolded one will go where it is led. Transporting the cats was a tense logistical challenge. McBride drove down the mountain with a sedated lioness buckled into the passenger seat beside him, keeping watch in case the sedative wore off during the drive. 8 females were released into the Florida swamps in 1995, but the mission faced immediate setbacks. 1 vanished and 3 others died shortly after, including a pregnant female who was shot. The entire genetic future of the species was now whittled down to just 5 isolated cats navigating a foreign wetland. Biologists spent 7 months tracking radio coordinates from the air. They did not know if mountain-dwelling Texas females and swamp-dwelling Florida males would even recognize each other as mates. In October 1995, the first kittens were born. They showed no heart murmurs, no fur cowlicks, and no kinks in their tails. This visualization compares survival rates between the populations. While infant survival was only 21% in the purebred panthers, it rose to 53% in the new hybrids. This success created a legal paradox that required a federal ruling. The government officially classified the hybrids as Florida panthers to ensure they received the protections of the Endangered Species Act. This operation demonstrated that a targeted genetic rescue could end a cycle of reproductive failure and birth defects within a single generation. By 2007, the population crossed 100 individuals for the first time in modern documentation. As their numbers grew, the panthers began expanding north into new territories, but the cats quickly encountered a wall of human infrastructure. Dense developments and multi-lane highways occupied the corridors needed to reach new habitat. High-speed vehicle strikes became the primary cause of death. In one recent year, 17 of 18 documented mortalities were the result of highway collisions. As territory shrinks, the cats are forced into constant contact. There is not enough space to support the growing population. Healthy panthers are now frequently fighting each other to the death. The 1995 rescue successfully addressed the population's immediate biological decline, but those games eventually stalled against the mathematical limits of Florida's real estate. A 2025 UCLA study found that while Texas genes saved the population, they introduced hidden harmful mutations. Genetic diversity currently masks them, but if shrinking habitats force inbreeding, these deadly mutations will unmask, potentially requiring another rescue mission. Today, fewer than 200 adults remain in the wild. Meanwhile, the NHL team named after them won back-to-back Stanley Cups, a massive cultural presence for an animal most will never see. Humanity has demonstrated the ability to repair a species' genetic code to save it from extinction. But those biological gains are only a temporary reprieve if the animals are left without the physical territory they need to survive.